Hey, there we are. Welcome to tonight's live chat. We were just here 24 hours ago talking about a interior winter storm. Just checking. It looks like everything is live here. It looks like it's good. Awesome. Okay, so we have a couple of things to talk about. A lot of phantom storms out there and the model guidance. So, again, we're going to kind of go over the general pattern that we're in and what we can and cannot expect in that pattern. And of course, take all of your questions. Of course, everyone who's a premium member, which I see the chat room is getting filled. Good evening, guys and girls. Um, we'll answer all their questions and then we'll pick out the best social media question as well on X, Facebook, YouTube, and of course on Twitch. And thank you all the viewers who are out there. I really do appreciate it. We actually had like over 3,000 viewers in the live chat on Tuesday, and that wasn't even a major storm. So we'll see where it goes from there, right? So let's talk about the latest observations. There we go. Well, we all know that the stratosphere has been disrupted, and we all know all about that. But one of the major parts of the winter forecast was whether or not La Nina would weaken. There was pretty strong support, model support, but you still want to see it actually happening. And we are literally seeing that live. Okay. Now, the only regions that support La Nina conditions, just barely, is Nino 3.4 and 3 after a high of, or should I say a low, of minus zero point 0.8 degrees Celsius, pushing towards 1. It has turned the other direction and it is rapidly moderating all levels. And it's not a surprise that this started to happen once we shifted the MJO from 7, well, basically from 6 to 7, and now 7 towards 8. And as a result, our SOI values are free falling. You see these daily contributions right there? And these daily contributions in the negative also gives us a good idea that we're going to continue to see an active weather pattern starting to really take shape. Model guidance is having a difficult time catching up to all this. And so it's producing a lot of phantom storms, phantom uh, southeast ridges. The question that you have to ask yourself, does it fit the pattern? So we know that we're in a state of change. We know that now that the daily contributions are all going strongly negative because the MJO is moving into a favorable phase in the region of 7, 8, 1, and 2, that the support for the Southeast Ridge is gone. Okay. So you can remove that whenever you see that as a solution. You can automatically start to say, okay, going to ignore this suite, or I'm going to stop it at 120 hours and then ignore the rest for now until we get better data because it doesn't fit the pattern. It doesn't fit the observational states that we're in. So that's true whether you're dealing with the European, the GFS, no matter what model, AI model guidance, whatever you want to follow. Um, the question you have to ask yourself is that does this fit the current state of the atmospheric environment? So we're seeing this weakening right now, and what we're going to be watching for all you guys asking for, hey, when are we going to get a blockbuster winter storm? Are we going to see a major nor'easter, a Miller B, Miller A, what have you? I'm going to make this very simple for you. What we're looking for is right here. See this 180? That's the date line. You're looking for convection to start to really blossom here. And notice over the past couple of days, seeing a gradual increase. And once we get into phase 8, in the heart of phase 8, you're going to start to see this convection growing. And once you see that, that amplifies the subtropical jet stream. And when it amplifies the subtropical jet stream, you start to create more alignment with the polar jet stream and you get more interaction between the short waves, and then things get interesting. Now, again, as always in meteorology, it's not a guarantee that your backyard will see snow, but it's certainly a strong signal that something's up. But we don't have that very well right now, right? So, what does that tell me? Stay away from strong storm signals, which is why yesterday's storm I didn't really have to change all that much in the forecast for the past couple of days, even though a lot of model guidance, the European was way too cold, the GFS was way too warm. It met somewhere in the middle. I struggled a little bit with the accumulation of that 1 to 3 inch zone on the grass. I knew the roads were going to stay wet, but then the 3 to 6 idea worked out very nicely. Why didn't I buy into anything colder than that? Because it doesn't match the weather pattern that we're in. We didn't have a strong high to the north. We didn't have the blocking. We don't have the ridge. So when you have that, you at least put yourself into some guardrails to understand the type of weather pattern we're in. But I also see where we're going towards. And where we're going towards is a locked in, stuck phase 8. And let me tell you guys something. In December, typically it's not our snowy month. Around here, our snowy months are January and February. Okay. December is kind of like a little teaser. If you get snow, it's a bonus. Okay. A white Christmas that everyone talks about, less than 10% chance of happening, climatologically speaking. Around 1% if you're on the immediate coast. So, and typically this time of year, just to give you a little bit of perspective, typically this time of year, we're waiting for a stratospheric warming event to maybe dislodge the polar vortex. We're waiting for La Nina to weaken. In this year, in this month, that's happening now or has already happened. And because of that, we're kind of in a different mode of we're not waiting for the pattern to develop. We're just waiting for everything to finally come together, which puts us about a month ahead of schedule. Okay, if you really want to think about it. So the MJO is expected to get stuck in phase 8, which is pretty much one of the most favorable phases you could have for potential winter storm development. Not a guarantee, but a more favorable environment. Notice I'm trying to give you guys an understanding that, yeah, all the ingredients are there, but we have to stir the pot just right, to get it just right, so that way everything sets up. But we're certainly, again, we got all the ingredients lining up here. Meanwhile, sea surface temperatures. There was a lot of concern in late October and November about the fact that we saw cooling out here. And I said, not worried about it because the reason why you had cooling here is because you had a deep trough here with polar and Arctic air dropping into the ocean to the Gulf of Alaska. And then once you get your MJO phases out of 4, 5, and 6 and into 7 and 8, you'll see all the warm water that was sitting here get driven right into the Gulf of Alaska. And that is exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing a steady moderation, plenty of warm water here, textbook positive PDO. And what this all sets up is a more amplified polar jet stream with a nice ridge set up around Alaska and setting up cold air to drop right into central Canada, central United States, and eastern United States. This again is another signal. Okay, so I'm trying to teach you guys um, signals, not model guidance, but observational signals. Okay, because then if you understand the observational signals, then you have a better understanding of the models and a better understanding of what can and can't happen. So this is a very important signal. This signal here supports the killing of the southeast ridge here. This signal here supports the potential for a reloading negative NAO pattern once it gets established. And this signal here will definitely support a cold neutral state. It's currently a La Nina state, barely hanging on. All this is going to moderate and collapse. And by the time we have another chat next week, we're going to be sitting here talking about how the La Nina has really just disintegrated since we last talked. So that's where we're heading towards right now. in the sea surface temperature realm. And also, talking about the stratospheric warming, there's a lot of talk about the rebounding of the polar vortex. Well, first of all, we had some wind reversal, okay, which was really unusual for late November. So we had our major stratospheric warming event. I mean, there, see? I mean, just watch it. Beautiful. Just beautiful. All that red. It's just a wonderful thing. Now, why have I been saying this is going to keep on happening? Because this is driven by the EP flux, which is enhanced by the negative QBO. So the reason why I harped on the QBO state going all the way back to last February was that this sets up repeated disruption of the polar vortex. I did not think we'd see a major stratospheric warming in November, but it came, it's here, and that means we're in a totally different realm in terms of understanding the stratospheric warming and the stratospheric polar vortex and the interaction with the stratosphere. Typically, in most winters, we're waiting for the polar vortex to get disrupted and hoping, maybe mid December, maybe early January, maybe mid February, maybe mid January. And then it's active in late January. You get it. Almost every winter is like that. We're waiting for it. We're waiting for it. It's already here. It's already disrupted. So, what we have to deal with the rest of this winter is a weak polar vortex. But the models don't like handling that very well. So, why am I confident that we're going to continue to see a weak polar vortex, maybe even another stratospheric warming event or two? Is because of what we're seeing with the EP flux. Again, observations. Combine this with what we know about the negative QBO, you combine the two, and you think this through, you have your transport from the mid latitudes in the troposphere to the higher latitudes in the stratosphere. That conveyor belt is locked in and ready to roll, and it is transporting warm air. It is what has been setting up the stratospheric warming, and it is also what set up the warm stratospheric environment in the Gulf of Alaska during the spring and summer months. So this isn't something that just developed. This is something that has been repeatedly influencing the atmosphere going back over 6 months. So it's not a flash in the pan, and it's not collapsing anytime soon. And it's driven by the influence of the negative QBO. And that influence has only gotten stronger because once we get into the cold season months, the QBO influence gains much stronger influence. Okay, it gets stronger. So just so you understand, when the QBO is positive, that's when we could say, okay, you might get a stratospheric warming event, but it'll collapse. It won't last long. And high latitude blocking will be transient. You might get lucky with a storm at the right time, but it's very progressive, right? In a negative QBO environment, complete opposite setup. Okay. So that is why I am not surprised that now we're seeing this signal showing up. Remember, back during this date in December, for December 17th, when it was out here, it had this signal. What's showing up here was used to be this signal here. Now that we're getting closer and the model guidance, again, this is the European one, the best models we have here. Okay. Once he picks up the observational data, it makes the adjustment like, yeah, we'll see a rebound because it's a reflective event, but then it gets knocked right back down. Probably not to reversal, but look at some of these solutions here. A lot of repeated sine wave type scenarios of stratospheric warming. So what's happening is that the model guidance is trying to handle this event, but it keeps on losing it this far out. So I have very, very low confidence that this verifies. I think what happens is that you continue to see these events setting up, and basically you trend gradually towards a neutral state once you get into mid January into early February. But before you get there, you get a weak stratospheric environment, stratospheric polar vortex, all the way into early January. Okay, so from now through early January, you have the potential for plenty of high latitude blocking, interaction of short waves, You got it. Okay. So, and then beyond that point, possibly another major stratospheric warming event is possible. But it's not going to show up out here because the model guides can't handle the volatility and the chaos. So don't even bother looking out beyond this point at right now. Because remember, when this forecast was like for today was out here, it had no sign of real stratospheric warming event. It had a little dip, nothing big. But now look at it. Okay, so very interesting setup here. And as a result, what we have is pretty much continued stretching. And it's a perfectly aligned too to get polar and Arctic air from Siberia right into the eastern North America. It's all lined up there. And with that, that tells me that any type of solution that leads to a warm up, whether it's the GFS, European, Canadian, European AI, ensembles, throw it out. Not because, oh, I like cold weather, but because it doesn't make sense. Again, if we were in a positive QBO state, I said, yeah, that makes sense. We're in a negative QBO state. Doesn't make sense. If we didn't have a weakening La Nina, sure, Southeast Ridge, part of La Nina. But we're having a collapsing La Nina. It's losing support. Throw it out. You see what I'm doing here? I'm matching the current state of the atmosphere to what are logical results of being in that state. So, this at the same time is why I'm throwing out any idea right now over the next 7 to 10 days of major winter storms because we're not there yet. Once we get that MJO in phase 8, you give it a little bit of lag time. As I've been saying for quite some time, look for after December 15th. You give yourself a 15-day window to get your pattern developed, get your MJO influence set up, get a more robust subtropical jet stream, which the model guidance is not going to handle at all very well. Give yourself some time. Don't be surprised if you start to see in the model data, once you get under 168 hours, storms start popping up all over the place and start disappearing. And then under 5 days, you lock in because what's going to happen is that you're going to get all these short waves popping in, and they're going to be coming in from the desert Southwest or from the Four Corners. They're going to be shooting towards the Tennessee River Valley and the Mid Atlantic. And then, if you have timing just right with the polar jet stream, these storms are going to pop up on you with short notice. That is the type of pattern that we're heading towards. And then it's just a question of timing and blocking. So the way that looks, the way I would suggest is that I wouldn't use operational guidance for any type of long range pattern diagnosis. And if you're an energy trader, I sure as heck wouldn't use it for um, degree days. I've been using a mix of ensembles and my own thinking of how the pattern is going to be working out, and that so far has worked out very well for me. And I would suggest you do the same. But look at what the ensembles are showing here. Just 90 hours out, you got a nice block setting up here. Nice block here. You have an upper level low in the Gulf of Alaska. Why is this important? You kind of want to have this reverse to get a major storm. Why do I say that? Because this trough knocks down this ridge. So you end up with a broad trough. So, what this tells me already is that this pattern over just the next 90 hours, progressive, colder, progressive, fast moving, weak, sheared, some moisture in the subtropical jet stream, but keep things moving. Don't slow things down. Keep them going. Don't buy into any type of rapid, intense cyclogenesis because there's no support for it. But everything's moving, and this feature here keeps your cold air locked in. So you have plenty of cold air to work with. You just don't have the right positioning of short waves. Now we move to next week, a little better. A little bit more blocking. Again, perfect. Negative NAO signal here. This is a little wonky here, okay, because you have some short waves phasing in here. So this is creating this troughiness here. If this is more out here, and you see this ridge here and this ridge here trying to build, then things might be a little bit more interesting next week than what it's showing right now. But let's just say that this trough is separated from this upper level trough here. You have this ridge out here trying to build towards Alaska. You have this ridge trying to build. As it stands right now, still progressive, but gradually changing. Then we get to 180 hours out, and I'm seeing nice troughiness here, nice negative NO signal. This ridge again, this trough here is limiting your potential here for a storm. Okay, you want this ridge to build in here, not out here. So where we go 10 days out, well, now things get a little bit better. Ridge starting to build into Alaska, still plenty of cold air. This starts to get crushed. Most likely a lot of confluence here. Still generally a broad polar trough. Subtropical jet stream trying to cut under our head. Still plenty of cold air in place. Now you end up out here in the 10 to 15 day period. Now, what can I take from this? Okay, you don't take anything verbatim, but some changes that are taking place here. You still have your polar vortex in the troposphere dropping in towards central Canada. Still have a lot below normal heights here, so it tells me your polar jet stream somewhere around here. Still have your negative NAO signal trying to play out, maybe more of an east-based negative NAO. This ridge here is showing more building heights towards Alaska. If you can get that set up, then this allows the ridge to pop. If not, then what you have here is a lot of clippers dropping through. But what I have to put a caveat here on here is that by this point, we should start to see a lot of convection building in the around the date line in the Pacific. And what's the bet that the model guidance is not going to be able to handle that convection and all the short waves in the subtropical jet stream? And because of that convection, it's not going to be able to handle the evolution of more below normal heights here and more above normal heights here. And so I still say December 15th on, keep an eye on this pattern because almost everything's here. You just have to take into account of the chaos involved in this whole pattern change. But up to that point, a lot of clippers, a lot of fast moving systems, and a lot of volatility. And as you can see, plenty of cold air to work with. So that's the first key, as always, when you're dealing with this month of December. It's just getting the cold air in here in the first place. That's already locked in. And the surges of cold air is actually going to help you to cool down the local sea surface temperatures, which means you already start to reduce the influence of that northeast and east northeasterly wind that can warm your boundary layer up pretty quickly. You're already cutting into that influence. So that's an interesting setup as well as we see this all play out. Now, currently, right now, it is quiet and tranquil, but trouble is brewing. First thing, okay, a lot of people aren't paying attention to is this cold front here that's going to be marching through tomorrow. Don't be surprised if we end up with a snow squall dropping through here. This is a robust, very strong cold front. Believe me, you're going to feel it, the fact that the cold front went through by Friday morning with some real Arctic air behind this. Okay. In fact, let me see if I can pull up some of the temperatures here so we can get an idea of what we're talking about here. How about 6 degrees in Fort Dodge? 0 degrees. 1 in Austin. Minneapolis is -2. These are temperatures. These aren't wind chill. These are temperatures. So you can see we have a real Arctic air mass on the way here. So with this Arctic air mass coming through, don't be surprised tomorrow evening if we get a snow shower, snow squall marching its way through that kind of sets people off and people not being prepared. There is some hints of it on the mesoscale guidance. I'm going to be keeping a careful eye on that tomorrow on the HRR guidance because I'm curious to see how well it picks this up. But you can already see the influence of the short waves. Meanwhile, here is our potential snowfall for Friday. We're not looking for anything big, okay? Dusting, maybe an inch. It'll make everything feel nice. But it's also going to be happening on Friday evening's rush hour. Light snow, certainly cold enough, below freezing. There could be some slick roadways out there. So just use some caution for Friday evening's rush hour. As this little feature that has a nice little chunk of moisture. Again, these shortwaves coming out of subtropical jet stream, they have more moisture than what's being modeled. We saw that yesterday with about an inch of rain on the coast and a nice little wet snowfall over the interior, about 3 to 6 inches in many locations. So it certainly has some moisture. It's going to be passing just to the south of us, and we can see that. Take a look at our pattern overall. Again, on the infrared satellite picture, a couple things stand out to me. First of all, plenty of strong lifting with this cold front. Look at those cold cloud tops. That should catch your eye right there. Okay, so we have a very strong ascent with this cold front. Very strong lifting because it's an Arctic front, which is why I'm concerned about a snow squall or two. Then you have this feature out here. Again, it's kind of strung out. It's not strong, it just has a lot of moisture to work with. And when we take a look at the water vapor satellite picture, again, it's a nice little shortwave, no doubt about that. Look at the subtropical jet stream. For a La Nina year, this is pretty active. And then you have your trough out here. Again, you take a look at your 250 millibar winds. No ridge here means no major storm here, but certainly very progressive. Again, I'm going to teach you guys a very important signal. Whenever you see a model guidance 10 days out, I know you guys like to look at it 5, 7, 10 days out, and you see a big, huge storm. The first thing you should check, do I have a ridge centered over Montana? If you don't waste your time. And certainly don't wait till 2 a.m. for the next model runs. I know you're young. You think you can stay up all night. It's a waste of time. Trust me. Okay, don't do it. Okay, save yourself some time, some bag under your eyes, some of your hair. And look what the head did to me. You know what I mean? Come on. I'm saving you some time and money. So don't do that. This is a progressive pattern. So taking a look at the guidance, I just want to show you the jet streak for Friday afternoon. Strong enough to keep your disturbance robust, but not to intensify. Um, well, let's take a look at 850 millibar winds. See anything shows up that's interesting? Not really. Again, you don't really have a strong 850 millibar low, so your 850 millibar temperatures for this event are going to stay pretty chilly. So this would definitely support snow. But the reason why there is some mixing on the immediate coast is your 9 to 25 to surface temperatures are going to be approaching or slightly above freezing. So sorry, you guys in Cape May, Wildwood, Belmar, okay? You're probably going to see like a rain snow mix out of this or snow that just doesn't accumulate all that much. But just away from that, yeah, dusting here and there, certainly going to make it feel more holiday-ish, Christmassy. Okay, definitely a very nice feel with a weak disturbance, a dusting here and there. It's going to make it feel nice. But again, this is not a strong disturbance. It's all strung out, and you're going to have a series of these just marching their way through. Now, when things get a little bit more interesting is when we get these clippers dropping in, starting Tuesday on through the end of next week. This is not a settled case here, okay? Because you have a lot of these disturbances that are currently right now in northern Canada and Siberia that are going to be dropping this way. sending cold wave after cold wave, and also disturbance after disturbance. So the question is, how far do these dive south? Do they get to central New England, or do they get down towards northern Virginia? You get down to northern Virginia, you get a little redevelopment, things could get a little bit interesting. But again, stay away from big storm idea, just very progressive, light, moderate snowfall, light to moderate precipitation, fast moving, 4 to 6 hour event. I was even a little bit too long with the previous storm. I thought maybe it lingered till about 4 a.m. out towards eastern Connecticut. That storm was booking. Okay, so it taught me an important lesson. Give it about 4 hours max, maybe an extra hour here and there, depending on some development on the mesoscale side. But these storms are going to be moving fast. So that also means you have to cut down your precipitation totals because you have limited time. So these are moving fast, but these clippers next week, this is not a settled deal. These are going to be moving fast, and you can kind of see some of the hint of what we're dealing with these clippers. So here we have for Friday, again, fast moving, in and out, dusting to an inch. Then once we get to Tuesday, now we get one disturbance after another, one clipper after another. And look at the signal here that shows up. You see this little weak low pressure system out here? That's a situation where you have the primary here jumping towards the coast very quickly and trying to redevelop. These can be a real pain in the neck to forecast for because sometimes it pops off just right and you got maybe less than a 48-hour notice and it pops off a light to moderate snow band right on the coastal plain between Boston and Philadelphia. Okay. So we have to watch this type of scenario very quickly, very carefully, because again, this is not settled here. And even the model guidance in just handling one clipper tries to form two different locations, one here and then one out here. So it's trying to handle this environment very fast moving. There's the other one. There's one after the other, just jumping in. There it forms a nice little low, maybe an inverted trough. Another thing we'll have to watch out for, inverted troughs, Norland troughs. So again, very progressive, very fast. And in terms of forecasting, this type of setup can basically sneak up on you with very limited warning. Okay. And so like when I start seeing signals like, hey, it's trying to produce these little troughs here, like this one out here. Okay. Again, you're not taking this verbatim. You're not like copying and say, oh, well, on Tuesday, it's definitely going to snow. No, that's not what you do here. What you're doing here is that you're taking a look at these signals and it's very progressive. So you have to at least prepare yourself like, hey, I'm going to have to be on the ball with these type of setups here. So a lot of interesting data for sure. So for right now, let's jump to the premium dashboard and let's see what questions they have. Again, to become a premium member, only $15 a month. And you can subscribe and you can ask as many questions as you want in the dashboard. I try to answer as many as I can. Okay. Sometimes it's a little repetitive. So I kind of have to copy and paste or say, please look at the video or the discussion I wrote, because then it can be a lot more details than I can type in here. But if you need that little extra kick, need a little bit more detail, and let's face it, I mean, after what happened this past week, yesterday, was it? Yeah, yesterday. I'm losing my days. It's been going crazy. Since Thanksgiving, everything's just kind of like crazy, right? Um, in the morning, I had a couple of my subscribers reach out to me and say, Steven, why does my phone app all of a sudden have New York City with 6, 7 inches of snow? Well, it's because Apple Weather, which is AI driven, uh, had a little brain fart and it decided to put out sleet and snow, and everyone, ABC News talked about it. A lot of meteorologists are like, why am I getting asked these questions? This is a great example of why you want to be able to reach out to an actual meteorologist that would actually respond to you when stuff like that happens because, as always with AI, it's just AI. It's not quite there. Yeah, yeah. And even when it is, I'm still gonna be better. So there we go. So definitely check that out if you're interested in subscribing. So let's talk about what we have here. Card is here as always. Good evening. The models are tanking faster than when the Colts did to draft Andrew Luck. Wow, they certainly have been these type of weather patterns are when model guidance. This is when you separate the adults from the children when it comes to forecasting, because the model guidance is going to be complete chaos, which I love. I love this because I love the challenge. Meant that La Nina is tanking faster than when the Colts tanked to draft Andrew Luck. Well, that too, yes. That is definitely true. Let's see here. Paul asks, how come the date line slide you showed with convection shows this date June 2025? Oh, it's still they're still working to update a lot of the images showing up on there as far as like the date, but I verified via other satellite that was accurate. But I get what you're saying. They're still working on it. I don't know. Ever since the shutdown, everything's been screwed up with dates and stuff. So you have to go back and compare with other satellite. The mess. Let's see here. At 70 millibars, the feed of air into the polar vortex is literally coming from as far south as the tropics down to near the equator. Massive warm air transport is still ongoing. Yeah, exactly. And you can see that on Earth News School. Pretty. Let's see. I think I could pull it off here. Let me see here. 70 millibars. Okay, let's see if we can get this. So this is at 70. Yep. Okay, good. Good, good, good. All right. Let's see. There it is. Right from the tropics, right up into the higher latitudes and impacting the polar vortex, which is stretched and almost near a split, but not quite. So there it is. Let's go back to 250. Pretty impressive, right? Also, bottom has fallen out. Temperature 850 millibars. At the surface, pocket of air down to 40 below Fahrenheit. Yeah, this Arctic air is pretty impressive. This feels like one of the best early setups we can remember. It certainly is. I mean, that's why I'm saying have a little patience, okay? It's only December 3rd. It's only December 3rd, and we have destroyed the polar vortex. And we have it set up to where it's stretching towards North America. You know, however, nothing matters unless the short waves play nice together. Well, that is true. I feel like it's always a needle and a thread type situation. Very tough to get a good winter storm around here. Yeah, it is. Look, a lot of people like to make a comparison to 95, 96 or 80, 81 or pick whatever favorite year you want as far as snowstorms. And the reason why they stand out so much is because it's so hard to pull off. That's why a winter storm for me is a beautiful thing. It's also dangerous. Look, we got to make sure everyone's safe and stays home and shovels properly. And we have to look out for the elderly and all that stuff. Absolutely. Um, but it's also a thing of beauty. And it's a thing of beauty because it's so hard to pull off. Because literally, you have to have everything come together just right. But when you get one of those patterns where everything comes together just right, things could get awfully interesting pretty quickly. Like you're saying, there is a lot of sheared shortwaves in the guidance. Do you think that will be a theme like last year with a lingering La Nina cold neutral? No, a little bit different. Um, Last year we had an environment that, let's say this properly, you had a more robust La Nina continuing into January and then fading in February, but you still had a stronger influence. This year, this is collapsing much faster, and the reason why we're having a sheared environment is not specifically because of La Nina, but because the interaction between the polar and subtropical jet stream isn't right yet because of the MJO phases we are in. Phase 5 and 6 will definitely tear apart any shortwave. Phase 7, changeable, but not just right, but strong enough to have an influence. Phase 8, which we haven't gotten into yet, but we're moving towards, that is where you want to be if you're looking for sustained, robust shortwaves from the subtropical jet stream. And that's where we're heading towards. When will a real negative NAO with robust blocking settle in, and will it slow down the flow? Um, this is why I've been putting, geez, I've been saying this for a while now, but I've been saying December 15th, wait until December 15th. And I've been saying that because I'm trying to time it out that would be when we're seeing a negative NAOs evolving, right? But I think that's when we'll start to see the real influence of slowing down the pattern. And Snow Boss, of course, is waiting for snow. Very, very, very much. Yes, as are many. Definitely seems like this is the first December in quite a few years where the potential for a significant winter storm is on the table for northern Atlantic. Absolutely. Again, I don't want to make guarantees because that's kind of hypish and ridiculous. But I'll put it this way: I'd rather be setting up in this pattern than a strong El Nino or La Nina and praying that maybe there might be an interrupted polar vortex. So this is far better in terms of if you're looking for a winter storm than any other setup that I've come across thus far. 9596 was driven by a western ridge up through Montana and into Western Canada, yes, that simply persisted for months. If I recall, we didn't have much blocking from a negative NEO that year, but the ridge was so perfectly amplified it didn't matter. We did, but it wasn't the dominant feature. Like the negative NAO in that year was not transient, but it just wasn't the most important feature, but it was present. And you certainly had very strong high pressure systems set up in the St. Lawrence River Valley, almost went blank there, and New England that funneled in plenty of cold air. Now, what aligned perfectly, yes, you had the ridge, right? So the ridge was set up just right. And the reason why that was important is that it timed out the disturbances between the subtropical and polar jet stream just right to constantly interact and phase, leading to one storm after another after another. And most of those storms were not strong. It wasn't like you had like a 960 millibar low every week. You had a lot of weak to moderate storms that produced 4 inches here, 3 inches there, another 4 inches here, and it just kept on adding up. And it just didn't stop. It was one after the other. And then every so often within that mix, you got a major snowstorm going over 6 inches. And you had your occasional blizzard. But a lot of those storms were light to moderate events, but they were so frequent that it almost felt like one storm after another. It just didn't stop. So that's why I don't make comparisons to that year to any year that I forecast because it was such a magical year, to so to speak, that it's irresponsible to compare it to anything else. Good work. Let's see what we have here in social media land. I'm going to drop into YouTube first. Holy smokes, we are busy, aren't we? Let's see. I know a lot of people need snow. Let's see what we have here. Southeast Maryland. Are you talking about the Delmarva part? if you talk about the Delmarva part, there's a pretty good chance. I'd say down in Washington D.C. actually has a pretty good chance of seeing like a dusting, an inch, something of that nature. Uh, it definitely this weather pattern definitely supports sustained cold. I am not buying any major warm ups. Okay, the most I'd buy in terms of a warm up is maybe a quick 6 hour warm up ahead of Arctic front. That's pretty much it. As far as I don't see the snowfall expanding much beyond New York City. This is more like a southern mid Atlantic to, let's say, from Washington up to Philadelphia. Pretty good shot of like a period of moderate, of not moderate, but steady light snow for maybe a couple hours, 1 or 2 hours. But from Philadelphia northward off to New York City, more scattered and broken up. And in north of New York City, flurries, maybe, if that. Yeah. Does a skew tee have any use during? Oh, this is a great one. Does a skew tee have does a skew tee, excuse me, have any use during a winter storm event? Yes. Oh, absolutely. Okay. So during a major winter storm event, what you want to do, okay, with with your convective potential here is you want to look for mid-level instability in your skew T. And that's how you pick up things like mesoscale banding, slantwise convection, thunder snow. Um, you want to look for stretching in the atmosphere, okay? And what you want to look for is in the very cold environment, a very steep lapse rate. And we will be, once we actually get a winter storm set up and we can actually see if we can track that and find that, and I'll probably do that in live coverage, which is going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be a blast. um, that's when you use the skew T to pick up your slantwise convection setup, so that way you could pick up your potential for thunder snow. And so by being able to find those areas, what you want to look for is vertical and horizontal stretching in the atmosphere, kind of like you're pulling putty, right? And you're trying to, what you're trying to look for is within that stretching and pulling an area of weakness where you have air rapidly rising, right? So you have an unstable environment with rapidly rising air, with cold air and moisture being injected in at the same time. Kind of like Frankenstein monster, right? Everything getting ejected at just the right time, and then boom, thundersnow. So yeah, you definitely can use the skew T in that point. Uh, do you think you go live during any clip? Probably not. I can't say definitely no, but let's just say a lot would have to change. Okay, I'm not going to do a live event or live coverage like a dust into an inch. Like this Friday, it's going to be nice. I'll take some pictures, but I'm not going to do a live coverage of a dust into an inch. I gotta save my voice too, you know. I find that the older I get, the less desirable snowstorms are. Yes, I can understand that. This is why I have someone shoveling the snow for me. I'm not doing it myself. Um, I do some, but I'm not doing the whole driveway. I pay someone for that now. Uh, okay. How are we getting cold air into the eastern United States with a negative PNA forecast? Okay, so the thing with the PNA forecast is that you have to understand that the influence of the subtropical jet stream kind of throws off that statistic. So you want to be really careful in using it. The fact we have above normal heights in Western Canada and in Alaska sets up the transport from Siberia down into the central and eastern United States. And that's how we get the cold air. Yeah, MJO phases 8, 1, and 2 are usually rocking. And let's check out Twitch real fast. Let's see here. Uh, how long does it usually take for the MJO to affect weather patterns after it moves into a different phase? Kind of depends on a lot of different factors, but Usually, anywhere between a 5 to 10 day lag is pretty reasonable. What you want to do is see how, as the MJO is moving and as the patterns are evolving, how is convection in the tropics starting to change. Once you do that, then you get a pretty good idea how fast it moves. And do you think Devon Williams could be a good reliever for the Mets? He was a good reliever for the Yankees, although he had some issues at the start of the year. Um, I don't know. We'll see. At the end of the day, I don't care what they say. They gotta sign Diaz. Okay, so that's the bottom line. Otherwise, it's a waste. Let's see. Do we have anything on X? And then, are you seeing anything on Facebook? Oh, that well, huh? Yeah. Oh, here we go. Yeah, the sunspots are definitely picking up. And I agree with the EMP pulses, by the way, Card. I agree with you 100%. It's something that's a bit of a concern for me. Yeah. Uh, as always. I don't. Not many people like Facebook anymore. I've come to find. I don't know why. I know. I know. Let's see what we got here. If we are in phase eight, well, we're moving into phase eight. Why am I hearing about warm up? Because people follow models and not actually look at the whole pattern. That's why. Uh, let's see here. I would like the models to eventually show storms. You will. Trust me. You'll definitely will, especially once the MJO gets into that phase. Yeah. See, here's the thing. With these warm-ups, there are some people who really I don't know why, but there are some people that either really jump on cold or warm, like as if it's some sort of like I'm on team warm, like it's some sort of like personal vendetta or something. I don't get like there are certain like there are literally I've seen people form groups for all sorts of reasons. Sports, politics, religion. I never thought I would see online on social media literally people who think that there's a team warm and a team cold, like as if there's a cold miser and warm miser, you know? Yeah, heat miser and a cold miser. And I'm like, those were clamation characters. That's not real life. I don't get it. There's some people who are just like, be damned if anything. If there's any indication of either cold or warm, they will stick to that no matter what. Now, I would definitely support a shift to a warm pattern if the MJO was moving into phase three and we had no sign of any other stratospheric warming events and the QBO was westerly. Absolutely. Makes sense. Perfect, logical expectation. We are nowhere near that. So you could say it's going to be cold and dry. Sure. That could be a very reasonable forecast. Okay. You could say, okay, yeah, we're moving into phase eight. We're going to be cold, but the disruption of the polar vortex is going to suppress the subtropical jet stream. And it's just going to be cold and dry. Completely reasonable, logical idea. Saying, oh, it's going to be a huge trough in the west in an MJO phase eight and it's going to be warm in the east, that doesn't make any sense. That's illogical. Okay, so that's how you kind of piece things together. Let's see what else did we got here. Had a bit of rain on the way back from AC on Sunday. Heavies was right about AC itself. Weather Friday and Saturday was wonderful if chilly. Yeah, it's not bad down there right now. If you're heading down to Atlantic City on Friday afternoon or evening, um, yeah, it's gonna be you're gonna have a nice little rain snow mix dropping in there. So Definitely drive slowly. That's the one thing I would definitely suggest. Let's see here. Let's see if we have anything else popping up here on X. No, it looks doesn't look like it. I always like to check just to make sure. But I think we covered all the questions, and also we have 5 minutes left, so not bad. Hey, we can start decorating more of the tree. Yeah, we are finishing up our final tree. Yes, our final tree. But hey, who doesn't? I'm personally, I got my Santa hat, which I will be wearing in a couple of live chats. I definitely will be wearing it tonight. But I am ready now. I might as well knock this out before someone asks. Oh, what is the question on YouTube? But let me knock this out real fast. Um, can we see a white Christmas? Normally, you have a 1%. Well, definitely could watch the movie. Absolutely. Um, Normally, it's like less than 1% chance. This year, and this is pretty high, I'm putting it at 30% chance on the coastal plain and 60% chance right now for the interior, which is very, very high for this region for that time of year. Um, I might increase that depending on what we see. Does Cape have any chance for? Oh, does Cape May have a chance for light snow to come? Um, okay, so the Southern Peninsula probably rain snow mix. As you head up towards the northern part of the county, a better chance for a period of light snow, especially after roughly after 4 p.m. Get some public domain Christmas music. I've actually been considering that. I might actually look for that. Lots of Christmas lights up already. Was driving back from the doctor's office. They listened to me. That's why I put my stuff up in November. I was like, I'm not going to be out here when it's like freezing. Forget about it. No, no, no. No. Yeah. So we got everything out done. It's all lit up outside. It is beautiful. And all our neighbors, I mean, I'm looking out the window. It's absolutely beautiful. All the lights are up. Santas are up. It is. And you know what's going to really make a nice touch to it would be just a nice little light snow. Just a little bit. Yeah. It seems like it. It seems like it. Everyone's kind of up in their game around here ever since we moved here. Lots of Christmas lights. Okay. Yep. Uh huh. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. Well, I think we're about almost to 9 o'clock. I'm going to call the night for now, and I think we're good. Okay, so I'm going to call it a night now. Okay. We will be keeping an eye on this little minor event for Friday. Again, don't buy into anything that's like big or oh, this is a big storm or anything. It's a clipper. It's a very very clipper, very very weak, dusting an inch here and there. Not a major event, but do beware of travel on Friday evening just for some slick roads. Like don't speed, just stay a little bit below the speed limit. You'll be fine and be nice to everyone that goes to the mall. I almost had one lady. Yes, be nice to anyone that works in retail. Been there, trust me. But also beware you're driving. I almost had some lady run me off the road because she wasn't. She was on her phone screaming, probably because she couldn't get like the GI Joe with the Kung Fu grip, and and almost ran me off the road. She was on 2 lanes, almost. I mean, come on, come on. So be safe out there. Don't hit other people with your car. and be nice to your clerks and your waiters and everyone that is working at the mall, because they're just there to earn a little bit of money so they could go Christmas shopping too, right? So in the meantime, as always, stay safe out there.